Trump, we have completed the very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, 4 down, Natanz and Isfahan. All aircraft are now out of Iranian space. A full load of bombs was dropped on the main site, Fordow. All aircraft are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. No other military in the world could have done this. Now is the time for peace. What the Did he accidentally post that too soon or something? President Trump announces the U.S. has bombed Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan in Iran. He calls it successful and says U.S. planes are outside of Iranian space. Now is the time for peace, he writes. Dude, the peace president does it again? What do you mean? What do you mean the peace president? We just bombed a foreign nation. What the do you mean, peace president? I told you that 2-week narrative was bitch shit just to make the Israeli freak out as punishment for forcing his hand. Wait, first of all, I also never believed the 2-week narrative. I told you that it was most likely going to happen this weekend. We have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. All planes are now outside of Iranian airspace. A full payload of bombs were dropped on the primary site, Fordow. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There's not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Remember when General Keane advised them, tell the Iranians through the back channels it will be a one-time strike. Don't respond or else. Now we wait. What are the other bombers doing today? What do you mean? They're probably coming in because of a potential retaliation, which might come. And I think it will, but I don't know. We'll see. Now we wait. Now we wait. From this point on, we wait. We see what Iran's retaliation is going to look like. But remember, right as this information was coming in, I said they are perhaps holding off on deploying ballistic missiles because they're worried about an imminent American strike. Literally, this happened out of... I mean, this was the most expected attack, the most anticipated attack of all time. Seymour Hersh was right, for the record. Cy Hersh's reporting was correct. No, Al Jazeera is just
all right,
now
bringing you some breaking news now. We're just seeing U.S. President Donald Trump post on his Truth Social account that the U.S. has attacked 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Trump has said that joined the Israeli air campaign, and now we wait to hear more from Tehran and the Iranian government. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. This is, I'm reading now from the Truth Social post.
They got caught so off guard that their delivery mechanism for this looks like a live stream. Looks like my live stream. Look at this. Both CNN, literally, they screenshotted it so fast that they still have the notification up.
He says in all caps, thank you for attention to this matter. Again, the breaking news coming from President Donald Trump that the U.S. has indeed bombed sites in Iran. I want to go to Elena Treen, who is there at the White House. Elena, just to back up for a second, this news coming that they have attacked 3 nuclear sites there in Iran, as we saw President Trump coming back to meet with his national security team there at the White House, as we saw these B-2 bombers, stealth bombers that were involved in this being mobilized earlier. What more are you learning as we get this brand new information?
Yeah, so we do know that the president is still currently inside the West Wing with his national security officials. We saw CIA Director John Ratcliffe enter the West Wing just a little over an hour ago. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, we just spotted moments ago outside of the West Wing on the phone, engaged in a phone call. And look, I mean, so far all we know is what we have seen the president post. Of course, this is very different from some of the things that we've been hearing in recent days, that he was still weighing this decision. Well, despite that 2-week deadline that he gave himself on Thursday, just 2 days ago, he has now, of course, made that decision moving forward with this series of strikes. I think very notable, I was in some conversation with folks who are wondering, does this mean the U.S. when he says we? Well, he thanks
I don't even know
American
if I can leave for New York now.
in this, saying that no other military in the world could have done this. Some other things I think very much worth emphasizing here, Jessica, is he says that the bombs were dropped on the primary site, Fordow. Of course, that was really what we'd been hearing in all of our conversations, that really only the United States bombs, these B-2 bombs that you mentioned, we had reporting that had left that Missouri Air Force Base yesterday. They were the only ones that could really penetrate Fordow, that nuclear site, to really help the Israelis in their ultimate goal of wiping out Iran's nuclear capabilities. He says that they have done that, of course, and strike 2 other facilities as well.
Will this be like a Qasem Soleimani moment of restraint from Iran? And not even restraint at that point. It's like complete and utter domination. Or does Iran retaliate against American troop positions in the region? and close off the Strait of Hormuz.
States into this in a far more offensive way than we have seen, and also kind of going against some of what we've also know as many people really wary of the United States getting involved in this. Some key things I think, though, are also important to note here, Jessica, is what I had heard in my conversations after we had reported earlier this week that the president had reviewed attack plans on Iran. I was told that behind closed doors in these conversations, he had asked his team specifically if there was a way to have the United States carry out some of these strikes without launching them into a prolonged war. I've been told repeatedly in my conversations here with White House officials that their goal was to see, even if they get involved in this, perhaps that does not necessarily mean that the United States is getting involved in a war or that this will make it a full-scale war. Of course, we have to see how the Iranians will respond to this, but that has been what I've been told in my conversations here at the White House.
What?
And Elena,
Let me
just
guess,
to give
the
people
Barack
again
Ravi tweet that's in Hebrew is somehow going to tell us Israel knew about this all along. Wow, dude, color me surprised, brother. What a shocking development. Meanwhile, he was trying to pull the Ayatollah to Turkey or some shit. Or the foreign minister to Turkey, right?
If Israel wants to get rid of any threat of Iran having a nuclear weapon and getting rid of that program, how do you achieve that goal? And the big question around that was whether the U.S. would get involved, because, as you mentioned, the key way to do that is with these bunker buster bombs. You need these B-2 stealth bombers in order to do that. Now, the Israelis had said they had contingency plans, but they certainly wanted the U.S. to step in here and help them offensively. The U.S. had been helping them defensively, trying to protect them as Iran was
do? What do you mean? You shut off the Strait of Hormuz, the entire world's oil production collapses. Not the entirety of it, but a big chunk of it.
That's exactly right. I mean, and you're right. I do think stepping back and looking at how we got here is so important. I would note as well, of course, that one, the president has been saying for months, even before he took office, that he believed that the Iranians could never have a nuclear weapon, that the ultimate goal was to find a way to prevent that.
They're already packaging this as like
that was really what we've seen this administration do, which is try to engage in negotiations with the
administration ready to collapse the entire globe, but instead a peaceful demonstration of restraint, a first strike that was necessary. What a psychotic country we are.
To strike Tehran, and then of course those strikes began just over a week ago. And if you look at where the president has been, at first he really was saying that he wanted to find a diplomatic solution to try and de-escalate the conflict between Iran and the Israelis, and essentially had said that he needed the Iranians to be far more forthcoming in those talks and really make major concessions, what they had really been unwilling to do up until that point. And then he gave himself that 2-week deadline on Thursday where he said, I will make a decision, even though we had been reporting up until that time that he was closer to wanting to involve the U.S. militarily than he had been. But now it is clear, of course, that he has made that decision, gone ahead, ordered the military to strike these 3 different facilities, specifically Fordo, again, which you've pointed out, is really the key one that a lot of people believed that the United States needed to be involved in. And your point as well about what the Israelis have been asking the president. They've said it publicly. We know they have been saying this privately in their conversations. They wanted the United States to get involved. This is exactly what they were hoping they would do. A key question now is, where does this go from here? And we're going to have to continue monitoring that to see exactly what this could lead to now that the United States is far more involved in this directly than they had been up until this point.
Certainly. All right, Elena Trine with the very latest at the White House. Thank you for that. Again, the breaking news, President Trump saying that we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. We have special coverage of this breaking news continuing right now with Anderson Cooper, who is live in Tel Aviv. Anderson.
Chatters. This is one day of traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, through the Strait of Hormuz, of oil tankers, cargo vessels. It is a tremendously important choke point that Iran stated they would start mining if they were attacked. Look, the calculation here is simple. As I said, either the Trump generals are correct and Iran will behave in the same way that they did after the Qasem Soleimani assassination, but this is a severe escalation beyond that. This is exactly what Israel did to the Palestinians for 75 years. Basically, not in the same severity, obviously, but like this is a show of force that says you will not negotiate with us. We will not negotiate with you as even partners. We are here to dominate you. Just as the Abraham Accords basically proved to the Palestinian population that there was no other way out of this, that they were backed into a corner and they had to fight their way out of it. This is another escalation from the American government and the Israeli government, that their goal here is complete subservience from the Iranian government. They are no longer a sovereign nation from this point on, is basically what they are saying. They have their airspace. They use the diplomatic talks
get to the depth
as a cover, as a protective cover,
that facility
to basically blow up these facilities. Now, we don't know
that strike. The question, as you said, how many runs did it take? Were they able to destroy it completely? You know, we don't know that yet. We don't have that battle damage.
Yeah, we don't know if they actually were successful.
Point out
but
the Natanz facility, according to the IAEA and others, that was damaged by Israeli authorities. That was damaged early on in Israel's actions against Iran. The exact level of damage was not clear. There were some initial reports that perhaps the damage was worse than it actually was. The electrical supply to the centrifuges at the Natanz facility were cut. That electrical supply was cut. I spoke to the head of the IAEA who said he believed that would have caused some of the centrifuges in that Natanz facility to spin out of control and probably go offline and be damaged. But again, it seemed like Fordo had not really been directly hit as far as we know.
That's right. The Israelis had primarily focused their attention on the Natanz facility. We know that they had done extensive damage to the above ground facilities, some damage to the below ground facilities, and then as well some damage to Isfahan as well, although they left a lot of that untouched. Some of that, according to experts who I've spoken to, may stem from the risk of radiation that could...
Heavy GPS jamming and disruptions are being recorded right now throughout Iran and across other areas of the Middle East, likely part of tonight's U.S. strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities, as well as the preparations for a possible response by Iran. From Phil Stewart, national security reporter for Reuters, U.S. B-2 bombers were involved in strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. U.S. official tells Reuters. This is the liberal media talking about this, by the way.
The mother of all bombs, which is in Afghanistan. That bomb is actually not the mother of all bombs if you consider the GBU-57, because it is smaller than this 30,000-pound bunker-busting bomb, which would, every expert has said, would be the bomb that you would use for the Fordo facility. At this stage, we don't know
what
that
will
they
China
have
and Russia
actually,
do now? I mean, it is the fact that this happened probably means that China and Russia.
the weapon of choice.
Maybe I'm wrong, but the fact that this happened feels as though China and Russia allowed it to happen, if that makes sense. Like, I don't. If they saw Iran as a valuable partner, a valuable enough ally, I doubt that they would allow Iran to get bombed. They would probably intervene far before this took place, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think America can move B-2 bombers into Iran and fly over Iranian airspace and blow up Iran when there are Chinese assets in Iran. There are Russian assets in Iran. Well, notice that they didn't actually bomb the Russian facility. The Russian nuclear facility was untouched. They will intervene now. I think it took everyone by surprise. It took everyone by surprise. So why is a dumbass 33-year-old Twitch streamer who is simply looking at the readily available reporting on it telling you that it was going to happen literally this weekend, because I read Seymour Hersh's reporting on it, which was almost entirely correct? There is no world in which, if I am speculating on something and telling you that this assessment has a high likelihood that the Chinese state is oblivious to that reality, or rather the Russian state is oblivious to that reality. That's not how states work. Many of you don't understand that, like, states literally engage in deconfliction when they literally do war with one another even. Okay? They communicate flights to one another. I'm not saying that the B-2 bombers were communicated ahead of time to Russia and China, but I would be shocked if they didn't. You did just say that on Thursday. Dumb shit. My whole point is, first of all, there is no congressional approval. They are basically behaving as though if it's a bombing campaign, it doesn't require, like just with Yemen, just like Yemen, if it's a bombing campaign, it doesn't require congressional approval is like the modus operandi now. Okay, this has been calcified as a fixture of American foreign policy. Okay, congressional approval basically is negligible and not necessary when it comes to bombing campaigns. At most, if you want to do probably like a full blown boots on the ground military campaign, then you have to maybe say. Then you have to maybe say like, oh, this is going to be a special military operation, not a full-blown invasion. And then maybe you can exhaust the legal limitations once again. This is a severe escalation. This is a severe escalation, an act of aggression against a sovereign state, directly going to war with Iran, specifically at the behest of Israeli leadership and Israeli advice.
Who have you seen coming in and out of the White House?
In the Syrian civil war, Russian and American air forces communicated their flight paths with one another to make sure no accidental shoot down of the other. This is something that the great powers did since the Cold War to prevent escalation of nuclear war. Exactly. America does not give a about anything, dude. We do not care about anything. We are so awful. We are so goddamn awful. It is crazy. The Constitution, international law, we designed it. We can break it if we want to, and you can't do a damn thing about it. That is precisely what's going on here. Now we wait for the retaliation. Will Iran actually pull a post-Qasem Soleimani assassination, and their response is entirely so limited that it's basically nothing, it's negligible? Or will they actually retaliate with severe force, basically saying it's over, it's you know, all systems go, we're gonna blow up every American base with ballistic missiles, we're going to mine the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to disrupt commercial sea traffic, and this is their final step this is their final desperate last-ditch attempt at sovereignty. The problem with this final last-ditch attempt at sovereignty is that it most likely will lead to extended conflict with America and with Israel, and it will most likely lead to the inevitable demise of the country that we know, the United States of America, if it goes in that direction. And it will be used as a proxy by China and Russia if they are clever enough to extend that conflict in the same way that America was using Ukraine against Russia. The difference, of course, between Ukraine and Iran is that Iran has designed its entire society to withstand this kind of thing if push came to shove. They've never used it, and I don't even know if push comes to shove, they will be able to use it, but we shall see what happens. Trump just tweeted a Hasan account. Fordow is gone, says open source intel. This is so stupid. I'm sorry. What the I can't take this seriously. Open source intelligence, the OSIS 613 account doesn't know if Fordow was actually gone.
Well, you can anticipate that.
They're like, what are we talking? What is this? Why is he posting this? Does this mean he directly is saying that Fordow is gone?
Is now focused at
you are the president, man. What the is going on? I don't know if this is a retruth because he is saying, yes, I saw it, or if he's just simply a moron and is retweeting an OSIN account to flex. I don't know. I don't even know if they have the capability of knowing if Fordow is gone. How would they be able to know if Fordow is gone? Even Americans. Do they have the surveillance technology to figure out, like, did they monitor the crater? How would they even figure out it's in the side of a goddamn mountain?
And down there. But you're absolutely right. You probably will only get a 10% answer to that question. I would not want to be the targeteers and the bomb damage assessment teams that now have to turn to the president and say, we got it, we didn't get it, or we didn't get it enough.
What?
Likely there will be a need for a reattack.
What? Iranian TV saying no attack has been done. No one in Qom or Isfahan reported hearing anything. What the f is going on? All the Iranian media is sleeping right now. Okay, what about Fordow though? I mean, I know that that's like far away. The only way to possibly figure out, and this is, I mean, Fordow is the enrichment facility. Okay, Fordow is the enrichment facility. So I assume that if it was like a successful strike, maybe there would be radiation, right? Iranian Twitter saying they cannot confirm the attacks. There is no confirmed information yet regarding the nuclear facilities, which are subject to tight security and media protection. Weak communications do not necessarily mean the attack was successful, and we are working to verify the details as quickly as possible. Okay, that's a little different. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen. There are 40,000 U.S. troops in the Middle East right now, and any lingering faith that Iran plus allies in Iraq, Yemen, etc. had in Trump's deal-making instincts is now shattered. Hard to see Tehran agreeing with Trump that peace will now come. More likely, they perceive an all-out war for regime survival. What is happening? Dude, I'm in Iran. TV says they don't know yet. So people in Iran have internet right now, I assume. Trump set to address later. Trump's Truth Social account has been disabled. What the is going on, bro? CNN brings on a guest to say he's impressed with Trump's use of deception and trickery. Liberal media, by the way.
Of this announcement by the president and the decision to act now.
Well, I'm fascinated, and candidly, I'm impressed. I never really could understand what the 2-week
monsters, bro. These guys are freaks. Wait, so they might not have even hit the facilities? What is happening? It's got to be, no. Trump's account is not, let me tell you something. Trump's account is most likely not down. What's most likely happening is because Truth Social is a dog website, when Donald Trump announces a nuclear facility strike and a first strike against Iran from the American government, of course, a ton of people clicked on to confirm, and it basically destroyed the whole website. It most likely destroyed Trump's account. It's doing most likely like a hug of death because their website is dog shit. Because everything Trump does is dog shit. Everything. This is most likely a hug of death that is happening. See, as a consequence of people clicking on the account over and over again. Confirmation via Iranian sources. A U.S. official said on condition of anonymity, given the sensitive nature of the information, that multiple B-2 bombers carried out the strikes against 3 nuclear sites. The White House alerted television networks that the president was expected to address the nation later. The Fordo site was first revealed to the world in 2009. Okay, that's... Defense Department officials said on condition of anonymity, given the sensitive nature of the information, that a number of American B-2 bombers were used to hit Fordo. The bombers can carry the needed 30,000. I will be giving an address to the nation at 10 p.m. at the White House. That is in 2 hours. Regarding our very successful military operation in Iran. This is a historic moment for the United States of America, Israel, and the world. Iran must now agree to end this war. Thank you. This is what Trump said. The bombers can carry out the needed 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs that can penetrate into Fordo. It was not immediately clear whether other American warplanes were using the strikes. 3 senior Iranian officials speaking on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly said that they believed Americans had bombed Fordo and Natanz at around 2:30 a.m. in Iran. Fordo is right near Qom. Here is an Iranian journalist an hour ago. At least 2 explosions heard in Qom. I'm in a clubhouse room right now, and there are a bunch of people living in the city of Qom, closest to Fordo. They're saying that they haven't heard anything. Breaking. Iranian media claimed that the U.S. targeted Fordo with dozens of bunker-busting munitions. Israeli media state that B-2 bombers dropped GBU-57s. No confirmation of the extent of the damage. Holy dude. What an insane situation. I cannot believe that we are... I mean, given how stupid things are, of course, it is expected that this would unfold in real time in the exact idiotic ways that it did. Sky News.
American diplomats and their families who wish to get out the area. Everyone has been put on high alert. There are a lot of American troops stationed throughout the region, not least in Iran, where there are a lot of pro-Iranian militias, and also inside Syria. Syria obviously is more benign territory, but it doesn't mean that there aren't bad actors there, and that will be of concern as well. Diplomatic, military, and civilian ties. And of course, the State Department have been advising any American citizen to get out of Iran. That will also prove extremely difficult at the moment, but certainly I would say in terms of foreign policy, this is the most important, most significant moment of President Trump's second term. Whit?
Ian, panel for us, thank you very much. We're going to bring in our Louis Martinez, who's joining us now, covers the Pentagon. And Louis, you're on the phone, I believe, with us. And one thing I just wanted to ask you about, because we were getting these reports from flight tracker sites earlier that these B-2 bombers were on the move. We thought that they were moving, according to sources, toward Guam. What do we know about what may have changed in that plan? And was Was this part of some sort of diversion, or what was it that led to this move tonight?
But those are all great questions we're trying to get to and get a real good handle on that. But you're exactly right. This was a very public tracking on flight tracker websites, on radio communications from air traffic controllers that indicated that these B-2s had left their base in Whiteman, Missouri, and were bound westward. We talked to officials who told us that, yes, the bombers were headed to Anderson Air Force Base in Guam, which is a place that they've deployed from previously, but that there were no further orders. So the question is, were these B-2s allowed to continue on towards Iran and striking some of these targets? Were they not used? What other kind of assets may have been used? One of the things that I think that has been lost here over the last week or so is that the United States has had a very strong military aerial presence in the region already. We knew that additional fighters and bombers had been surged into the area, but those aircraft are very capable with of dropping.
Including the one where he announced that this had happened in the last 15, latest one.
Well, as you said, he has announced he will address the nation at 10 p.m. tonight, so that's in 2 hours' time, just under 2 hours' time. He says, I will be giving an address to the nation at 10 p.m. at the White House regarding our very successful military operation in Iran. This is an historic moment, capital letters, an historic moment for the United States of America, Israel, and the world. Iran must now agree to end this war. Thank you. So 2 hours before he gives what I imagine will be an Oval Office address to the nation. Very unusual for an address to the nation to come so late in the day and at the weekend. When presidents tend to do this, it's usually earlier on in the evening, hitting prime time, 6 p.m. or so. But a 10 p.m. address to the nation. We also know that the House, the Speaker of the House, and
the only other possible outcome, as that Twitter guy was also saying, is that they actually did not successfully hit the facility. Like, they did not reach the facility, given how deep it is, and therefore therefore the Iranian retaliation will still be severe, I suspect, but not as severe as like all-out war. So we shall see.
Yeah, and this was a question that was raised when I was having these conversations in Israel today with Israeli officials. They said that one of the things that Donald Trump would be asking was, what does the next day look like? What does tomorrow look like? What does it look like in a week's time?
The International Atomic Energy Agency is in Tehran. They'll probably see radiation on site if strike was successful.
Some kind of prolonged situation. So, as you say, and as Ali's
do you think this would have happened if Trump wasn't elected? Not that it matters because Donald Trump is currently the president, but yes, I do think it would have happened if Trump wasn't elected as well. If you think that the Democrats would be any different right now than the Trump administration, then you're not paying attention to what the Democrats have been saying so far. Now, once all of these events unfold and we see the negative consequences of it, the Democrats might finally change their tune. But leading up to this very moment, the Democrats have been lockstep, have not actually moved away from criticizing Donald Trump. And the only time where they've offered criticisms to Donald Trump is when they're actually saying they would bomb Iran harder. And this is not just the words of Kamala Harris saying that Iran is the biggest enemy, that she would be harder on Iran than Donald Trump, or that how she wanted to have the most lethal military. This is not just what they've said during the campaign. This is not how they set the stage for this to take place. This is because of what the Democrats are saying currently. The Democrats are currently saying, the highest level Democrats in Congress right now are currently saying that Donald Trump has the right to do this. They should just do it the legal way by getting congressional authorization. That is basically a demand for rubber stamping this and doing it the legal process. That is not a criticism of Donald Trump doing this at all. At most, if you hear in the upcoming days, if you hear from Democrats, they will probably say, depending on the impact, depending on the retaliation, you will probably hear them yell about how Donald Trump did not follow process. That's not the real criticism here. The process is only important because you're supposed to use the process to stand in opposition to Donald Trump, and you're not supposed to give him the congressional authorization. Donald Trump went ahead and did it anyway, without congressional authorization. I built a live viewer of satellite virus, thermal hotspots, and fire activity in KCP hotspots all over Iran. I can get you a web map of the specific data if you want to look. If Dems had control of executive and Congress, don't you think they would try to reinstate the JCPOA? We had a Democratic president for 12 hours since Fordo's opening. And no bombing ever happened then. Not running D for the Ds, but I do feel like this degree of escalation could only ever happen under Donald Trump. Joe Biden was the president. Joe Biden was the president and chose not to reinstate the JCPOA. And instead, what Joe Biden did was, instead of reinstating the JCPOA, what he did was full tilt genocide and set the stage for Donald Trump to be able to do this. That's why Brett McGurk has been Joe Biden's architect in the Middle East. What Brett McGurk has been saying on CNN 24/7 is basically how awesome this stuff is that Trump is doing. Israel's Channel 12 is showing images from what they say is Fordow. The vegetation in the image does seem to match the area around the site. Apparent footage from Iran, according to N12 News. I don't know if this is real. We would not be at this terrifying moment without Biden and his team emboldening Netanyahu beyond even Israel's expectations in Gaza and Lebanon, abandoning hopes of a renewed nuclear deal and fracturing their voting coalition. A team that promised stability brought huge danger. This assessment is correct.
Yes, it is. And, you know, I keep on saying it can go one of two ways.
Not that it matters right now, guys. It doesn't matter currently, okay? It doesn't matter what...
to coordinate...
It does not matter what, Kamala Harris would have done if she was president right now. It literally doesn't, because Donald Trump is the president and he did this, okay?
Something bigger. I mean, the Iranian regime...
But as you know, if you come to me and you ask me a question such as this one, I'm probably going to be honest with you.
They will be aware... They will be aware of the pounding they've taken over the last week and a bit, and they will be aware of the huge risks of getting into a big war with America now. And so I think there is, and we have seen it before in the last couple of years, I think there is a scenario whereby, not necessarily coordination, but they maybe even take a little bit of time and they make sure
some
that
dude on Twitter saw two B-2s flying east over his house in Missouri last night. Lamau, the only one who saw the real strike
package. In such
package.
a way that it is very much signaling an off-ramp rather than an escalation. Now, there is, of course, another scenario, a real scenario, that they say we're going to widen this conflict. I'm not sure how it.
Yes, never forget, Cy Hirsch, Papa Hirsch was right, unfortunately. But he was 100% correct in his reporting.
For example, he's suddenly start to really disrupt the global economy. They could...
Brett McGurk on CNN endorsing it? Oh, me. Well, this will perhaps completely put to bed the notion that the Democrats would be behaving differently right now. Brett McGurk is Joe Biden's own Middle East guy, his envoy, okay? Is this effing? What's happening right now? And he's on CNN. Let's see.
Regional leaders and to Iran that this is it. This is about the nuclear program. This is not an expanded campaign. They still want to get back to the path of a diplomatic arrangement, which has been on the table for some time. So that is the message I think we're likely hear from the president at 10 o'clock. They are prepared for a potential Iranian response. I would put it in three categories. We know them well. Missiles, militias, and terrorism or hostage taking. But I think we have, as I understand it, both sent a warning to Iran not to think about that. And if they do, we would have a counter, trying to avoid going up that ladder. There will be a lot of diplomacy here tonight. It's ongoing right now.
What diplomacy?
Clear to Iran, this is about your
what
three nuclear sites.
What are you talking about?
It does not go on from here.
Am I crazy? Have I lost my mind? Am I the crazy one? What do you mean diplomacy? Oh, I can't wait to do diplomacy. This is a great opportunity for diplomacy. That's the dumb that Trump is saying. What do you mean? You're supposed to be the serious party. You guys are supposed to be the Harvard-educated foreign policy advisors.